Welcome to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to IT marketing leaders about how to drive more sales. Hosted by Carlos Corredor, founder of Condor, an Inc. 5000 company and one of the fastest growing IT marketing agencies in the US.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This episode is brought to you by Condor Digital Marketing Agency. Do you feel that your marketing team is stretched thin, running campaigns, building decks, reporting on leads that no one follows up on, and it's still not enough? Condor helps you turn all the marketing efforts no one sees into pipeline that no one can ignore. They are built to work with marketing departments of mid-market B2B tech across their main functions: demand generation, website, and marketing operations. You can learn more at condoragency.com. And in today's episode, our guest is Jason Baum. He is the Senior Director of Developer Relationships at Source Labs, which is an AI-powered analytics platform for user experience and testing. He brings over 19 years of experience building and scaling global communities. And among other things, he also hosts other podcasts like the AI Time Journal and Retail Adventures, and in the past, the Humans of DevOps. So welcome, Jason. Glad to have you. And please, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me, Carlos. It's great to be on. So I did, like the intro kind of said, I've podcasting in general is an area of passion for me. So it's nice to be, or it's weird to be on the other end, I guess, of the microphone, if you will, being interviewed instead of being the host. But I have been in your seat before many times, and we actually have a current podcast called Test Case Scenario as well, for Sauce Labs that I'm currently hosting and have been for 3 years. So right now I'm at Sauce Labs, like the intro said. Sauce Labs is a platform for testing. It's not just AI driven, but it is and has been for a long time. Not just a buzzword that we're kind of capitalizing on. It's been AI driven for years. And we are the number one in the industry when it comes to the size of our customers. So all pretty much Fortune 100 companies use us to test their software, and it's the best platform for testing at scale. And prior to that, I was at DevOps Institute and a whole bunch of other places, but I have been lucky enough to spend 20 years basically being paid to build communities. Whether it be engaged audiences, like audience building, or whether it's communities as far as like what forum are you using type communities, those two. And I guess that's kind of been for me across those 20 years, community in quotes has evolved so much. In that time, we've gotten social media. In that time, we've Web3, and so there's all these different evolutions of what community means, and it has been a ride for me, and I just try to stay evolving and open to what that might look like, as I could use that for businesses so I can continue to be paid to build communities.
How did you get into communities in the first place?
It's for me, it started, I don't know, I'm of that generation. I guess they call us the Oregon Trail generation. Like, we were lucky enough to maybe have like a computer in school, and it was like the big floppy disk, and like during fourth grade recess or something on a rainy day, you could go play Oregon Trail. So I was sort of exposed to it, that Mac in every school program that they had way back in the 80s and early 90s. And so this has always been sort of an interest to me, and I got very into when what was it, the Yahoo Messenger groups and the AOL Messenger groups, when they first really started. I had joined a community for the band Weezer, and I got very involved in that early on and passionate. And the ironic thing that kind of stood out to me, that even though it was a community of fans of the band, the most popular forums was actually called All Things Not Weezer. And that kind of stood out. And I was like, wow, think of the power that you have if you could build communities for like-minded interest and then like being able to use that. Like you have the attention now of all these people, and I just loved what that could mean in general, and so that was kind of the start of it for me. And then I went on to do radio for a bit, for a couple of years, audience building, TV for a bit, audience building in development, and then made the switch to the nonprofit side of things, and did that for quite a long time.
Yeah, so it was on purpose, you know. It's not like, oh yeah, I got an internship in communities and then
No,
the experience, I got a second job and here I am. It was, yeah, it was meant to be.
they don't teach it in school. It's not something you could go and like, hey, I want to get a community degree, although that would be great. I think it just sort of happens.
Yeah, and let's start. Well, I mean, I don't know if the listeners have noticed, but you know, we're gonna talk about communities today, right? So I wanted to start by asking if you could give us, let's say, a high level overview of how communities usually fit in a marketing strategy, or even in the function of sales and marketing, or even in the functions perhaps of growth, right? Right, usually where does it sit, and particularly for B2B companies, right? Yeah, before jumping too much into the details, talk about that a little bit as a community, as part of of a growth strategy, and the type of what the alternatives that you have when you decide to do that, and the type of companies that usually do it, and if there's a difference between depending on the company type, etc.
And so it's just growth, or do you want me to touch on all the different areas where it can sit? Because I think that's kind of been a big debate.
Yeah, no, let's start there then.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's like the one thing, like when it comes to community, it can sit under many different areas. In fact, in my career, I've sat under sales, marketing, product, and the COO, or the CEO, directly before. So I think, where it works best, in my opinion, is a COO or CEO, because community has so many different hats that it wears or can wear. Possibilities are endless, and it really depends on what the priority of the executive is, who sits above it. That really drives at the end of the day what the business goals are going to be for community. And I could give you some examples. So in product, and also you asked about growth, and it's ironic about growth because I think growth is a similar thing, right? Growth can sit in product, growth can sit in marketing, growth can sit in sales. It really depends. Again, so same deal. At the end of the day, I think the purpose for a B2B business and having a community, to me, means that you're building an audience. You're building a group of people who are going to love your product and tell their friends, right? That to me is the ultimate end goal. Love your product, tell their friends. I think it starts to get dicey when you're like, I want to monetize those people. And certainly there is a path for that, for sure. Product-led growth is the example, right? That is like, we're going to get them in, we're going to get them hooked, we're going to get them using the product, we're going to sell bigger features. They're going to go to their boss at a big enterprise and say, I love this product. We're going to spend so much money now with them. And that's the ideal. Doesn't always happen that way, right? I think a lot of people like the free tool. They're going to use the free tool. And I think that's okay. I think the power of community is that effect, right, of telling 10 people. One person tells 10, tells, now it becomes 20, 30, 40. It's getting the word out there. And so I think for a lot of early startups, community is essential. That's like one of the first things I think you should hire for. And I see that. I see that a lot of times. I talk to small startups, Series A or pre-seed or whatever. And their first hires a lot of time when it comes to go to market is a growth community person, because they're the ones who know how to go out and get users. We're going to get people who are going to use us, and we're going to get them to talk about us, word of mouth. I don't think there's anything more powerful in marketing than organic growth, right? Because that's real. So the paid for media, all that kind of stuff, anybody can pay for media. I think when you have organic growth, when you have true organic traffic, people who actually love you, that goes back to like what Steve Jobs was after, right? That was the Apple mode. When Guy Kawasaki was like the first, in my opinion, developer advocate, right? He was going to go out there, and not even just developer advocate, just advocate. And he would go out there and he would just like, I think it's like a brand initiative in a way, right? More than growth even. We're going to go and we're going to sell the power of the tool. We're going to sell the benefits. We're going to tell you what's in it for you. I think a lot of companies make the mistake of saying like, here's why you should use us. Instead, it's like, here's what's in it for you. And there's a no ask relationship, a frictionless no ask relationship. That's community. That's community building. That's giving them something.
And
And I don't know if that answered your question.
now we have that part clear, right? Of
Yeah.
the role of community building within, let's say, a business strategy. It's really what we covered there, right? Let's say, okay, what does it mean to build a community? What could it mean to build a community, right? Like, are we? And I am obviously there are different types, so that's why I want to make sure that we and listeners understand the type of communities, right? Because I'm sure it could be like a Facebook group, it could be a yearly event, right? Like, what is it usually that?
Like you said, it could be anything. I mean, my first exposure to community, actually, if I think about it, was even younger. My mother ran corporate philanthropy for a major enterprise, and that just looked at as like we're going to bring people together for social responsibility, and we're going to go out and we're going to clean beaches, we're going to volunteer, we're going to do a lot of volunteer work, and that was the community of the enterprise, like that company's community. And that's one mode. At a lot of places, the developer advocacy team updates the docs. They create tutorials. They'll, create a learning library. They'll, maybe go internal and they'll go to a company and do seminars, workshops. Maybe they're leading hackathons. Maybe they're going to conferences and representing the company there. It can mean a whole lot of things. And I think the most important thing, like when I come in and I'm building them from scratch, which I've done several times now, is I just like to ask the question of why. Like, why do we need a community? A lot of times, if I'm approached, if it's like we need a community is usually what that conversation starts as. And my question is, well, why do you need the community? What is this community? Is this community like you said, a growth, play? Is it more? What is it? And even if it's growth play, I might just ask, okay, well, then fine. We want to do a growth play, but what does the community need out of us? Why does the community need this community? What makes it different than all the other communities out there? Because unlike when I was involved in that Weezer community many, many, many years ago, too many to say on a podcast, there weren't all that many. There were options, right? In those Yahoo groups and Messenger groups. There was tons of them. So I guess there were, but we that wasn't like competing at the same I think space that we're at now. I think now it's oversaturated.
Companies were not creating them yet,
What's
so
that?
companies were not creating those groups yet.
Yeah, it wasn't really company driven, right?
And uninterested, let's say.
Now every company has one.
Yeah.
Like almost every company has some kind of community effort. So what is it that the community needs that you're going to provide them that's different? And a lot of times we just want a forum. Oh, okay, that's a support community a lot of times, right? We can't devote a CSM to every customer. We can't afford that, so we're going to create a support community. The community is going to answer the community questions, and that's fine. That was never an interest to me. That's not exciting to me, but that's a community, sort of. That's like the debate over whether Oh gosh. Well, I guess I don't want to call them out, but there is a website out there that is devoted just to that support community type of vibe, and people just go on, ask a question, someone answers the question, thread's dead. I don't know. Is that a community? Like we could
Yeah.
debate that, I guess. So to me, the community is not the tool. Community is the intent.
Mhm. And within B2B tech, are there what would you say are the most common type of communities?
Um, Probably support communities actually, a lot of times is what I see because I don't see a lot. I see creativity at some. I think there are some amazing communities out there. The Trailblazer community, Salesforce Trailblazer community is an amazing community. Canva has a great community of creators. There are some really, really excellent Temporal, what Temporal's doing with their community. Um, I see a lot of great communities that are out there. And then I see a lot of companies that simply just need a support forum, and that's their community and that's their community team, and that's fine too. That's okay. That's what works for them. I like to think of community more as this community of everywhere approach, which is there are so many ways to reach people now. If we're just focused on forums, we're doing a disservice to them because we're not reaching everybody at that point. And I want to go to where they are, not necessarily bring them to where we are, because unless we're giving them something when they get here, that's going to be really hard to build and they might not have come back. And I think that's what you see in support forums is more like, well, we're going to use you when we need you, and then we're going to disappear.
Mhm. And when does it make sense for a community to live or to fit under marketing's ownership?
Uh, Again, that's a debate, but I think under marketing's ownership, to me, it really can excel in brand. And that's a great use of community. Um, because it goes back to the multiplier effect that I was talking about earlier, right? That's a great use of community. In fact, I think that's the ultimate use, um, is getting the good word out and not necessarily asking for anything in return. Sure, there's going to be pipeline build with marketing. So there's separation of church and state. I have lived the times where I've been approached by marketing and I literally said, I believe in the separation of church and state. I don't think the community belongs here because you're going to be out after MQLs and all this other stuff. And I don't want anything to do with that. I just want to talk to the community and give them something, I want to educate them. And the words back from this person was, "We'll do that. That's exactly what we need out of you." And I'm like, "We could do that in marketing?" Yeah, absolutely. And, I just had to learn about top of funnel marketing a little bit more, right? And community is the ultimate top funnel play. And honestly, you could use community throughout the funnel. My team participates in webinars. My team jumps on customer calls because they're also part of the community. Once they're customers, they're still part of our community. And I think there's just a balance. There's a healthy balance of when you're selling versus not selling. And to me, my team will never sell. We're going to tell the truth, but we're out there representing the brand. We know that, but we have to believe it, right? It has to be authentic. And so we're going to provide value. We're the people you go to when you want the real talk, not a bunch of fancy pictures.
No, yeah, in order for people to have that sense of belonging, which by the way, I just opened, Maslow uh, pyramid or hierarchy of needs. And right, you have physiological needs,
Hmm.
and then it's love and belong, right?
Yep.
Even before self-esteem or self uh actualization, essentially like you have something to eat, nobody's gonna kill you. And after that, the most important thing is, okay, I want to be part of a community, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of times the best communities happen organically, not necessarily with the company driving them, although that can be done subtly with the company getting involved in the community. That's the approach that I've actually taken at Sauce Labs. I think it's powerful when the community is supported by the brand and then becomes sort of this community of the brand, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want energized users. You want users who are going to know you, are going to say, "Hey, I love what they're doing." It doesn't have to be yours. Like look at Jordans, like Nike. Okay, Nike's such a great brand, right? Everybody, nobody's got a doubt. I think it might be the most powerful brand in the world. One of them anyway. The Air Jordans. I mean, sneaker culture is a community, and it has been for a very long time. 80s Brooklyn and everything. I mean, that goes back, but that's a huge culture, and it's ingrained in that culture. And you have people who are after the new Jordans every time they drop, and that's still going on. To me, that's a community, and Nike has benefited from that community. And they're going to continue to benefit from that community and nurture that community as long as they continue to be authentic and give them good product. That's what they want. I think that's all of us at the end of the day, right? They want authenticity, and they want good product.
Yeah, I think I don't know if easier is a word, but it's just different, right? For Nike, they had a great product, and organically the community was, it was born and it grew, and obviously they now take it into account, right? In their ads, in making sure that they continue to deliver for them, right? Versus, maybe more like if you come from marketing from a brand that it's small or growing, it's like, okay, where do we even start, right? And for example, I've considered starting a community, for example, for our agency, right? Which is again, mid-market, B2B, marketing leaders that, they want to share some things that are working. They want to see what other people are doing. They want to, sometimes geek out on some of the things that platforms or projects, right? I think, for example, the podcast is an initiative that could be considered, but at the same time, it's not like it's not a full community, right? Like you feel connected to, wow, maybe other people that are listening and are thinking this, but it's not a full connected community just by having a podcast that is not like, super massive, right? So the reason I explain is because, I've thought about, okay, should we put more effort and budget and have community building as part of a growth strategy, independent if that's under marketing or under anything, but like as a growth, with growth as a purpose. And it's number one, it's a long-term play, right? Number two, is like it's tricky, as you mentioned, right? I think it's very important that you don't sell the moment. It's already tricky to build a community from a brand, from a company. So you're already, playing catch up from that standpoint. And if on top you start selling things or people smell that you're trying to sell more than add value, you're dead before you even started, right? So like, do you agree with that? And do you have any advice for companies that are thinking about starting a community and how to go about it?
Yes, and I will answer that, but I want to address something that you said first about Nike. And they're large and they could do whatever, and that culture is there, but they weren't always. And there was a point where Reebok was number one, and I think the changes that started to happen where Reebok was like the sponsor of whatever, the NBA or whatever it may be, and they were spending on money on being the sponsor, and Nike went to the players, and Nike was just giving the players the shoes, and that was like, okay, now the person sitting at home is like, well, I identify with that person, that person's my role model. When they gave the shoes to Jordan, that means something now to me. I want to be like Mike, right? Like that whole commercial. So I think there is certainly great intent behind the marketing and the strategy, and that is, influencer marketing has been going on for a lot longer than we've been hearing the term influencers with regards to the internet. And I think that is certainly part of audience building that I think is a bit, maybe, even though it's so popular, I don't think we give it enough credit that influencer marketing is essential. So, so then I'll answer your other question, but also give another example of Apple. Apple in the 80s put a computer in every classroom, right? That was their goal. Computer in the classroom. They hooked a generation doing that. That was intentional. So there are ways of building community, especially early on, that can be intentional and also be from a middle-sized brand or growing brand. And then as far as starting up, if you're like a true smaller brand, I think that's the best time to build because you're building with the community. I think you're sharing with the community, you're asking them questions, you're soliciting their feedback. Community wants to feel like they belong, right? Belonging, to your point earlier, it is a basic need. I think it's bringing them in early, communicating with them. Hey, what do you guys want to see? What are the features you want? Like, let's build this together. Make them feel like they're part of it. And then it also depends on what product you're building. It depends on where you see the future of the community going, what is missing from that vertical maybe that others aren't offering. Like I said, when I stepped into the Sauce Labs community, there was no community program at Sauce Labs, which is ironic for a company that had been born by an open source project, the Selenium project. And they didn't have any formal community program, but there was a strong community who knew Sauce Labs, knew its importance in the industry of testing, but there were a bunch of communities that had started around open source software, Selenium itself, strong open source community. There's communities of practices that exist out there. For testing, there's a major one. And so, rather than build something from scratch and say, we're going to put our flag in, and this is the Sauce Labs community, went to all these other communities and we embedded ourselves in them and really supported them and said, you know what, we're part of this. And if you're looking for resources, here's a great resource for you. And people know to come to us to ask questions, and they know we're going to support them. They know we're going to give them education. We're going to give them really quality content. And we're part of the community. So every single person on my team is a contributor of the Selenium project today. Well, I'm on the project leadership. Two of the people are on the technical leadership. So we truly ingrain ourselves and are active participants in the community.
And if you're a direct to consumer, or for example, in the case of Sauce Labs, some direct to consumer and some B2B,
Yeah, it's all B2B, but our customers are B2C. Yeah.
But like for B2B, like any advice in particular on what tends to work better as a difference let's say when you don't have that much volume, right? Which I think is the main difference between B2B and direct to consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
What tends to add more value and things that you should be paying particular attention if you were to decide to start, building a community?
Yeah, I think have fun, take risks. Influencer marketing doesn't just have to be for B2C. I think some really successful campaigns that we've had even at Sauce, and I know others are doing it too, was with like a comedy troupe and sponsored their concert series and sponsored some of their videos. And are you familiar with the Dollar Shave Club video, like the one that they did back? Yeah, so everyone knows Dollar Shave Club because of the video and the viral video that they created. There's no reason why B2B companies can't do something similar. Some of it costs money, some of it doesn't cost money. You could take chances. Podcasts, to me, is an excellent way to build a community. There's debate over, is it a community, is it an audience? And I always ask, doesn't matter. Does it matter? A great audience can become a community. Patreon sort of has made a living that way. Think of bands, right? Bands grow that way. Bands grow, they're putting out a product. Their product is their music. You're buying it, and then you stick around because you like it, and they start fan clubs, right, to build their audience and the multiplier effect. Same thing. So I don't think it matters if you're B2C, B2B, whatever it may be. I think the approach can be similar.
Interesting. I agree. I think podcasts can definitely become a community, especially, if you start reading questions from the audience, if they
Mhm.
complement it with a platform, where people can interact.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, there's, if you want to do the flywheel, you put out the content, they're going to talk about the content, provide feedback, listen. Your job is to then listen, take that feedback, create new content out of it, and just loop it.
Even an Instagram account could be a community, right? Just because the followers, they comment, and a lot of times people spend more time, commenting and liking comments than actually consuming the actual post.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a lurker. That's how I participate in communities most often. I'm there for a reason. That's the reason. That's the thing you got to ask. Like, why does the community need the community? Maybe it's for job listings. Maybe it's for education in the role. Maybe they never done the role before and they need to ask, friends for advice. I mean, there are tools that are out there for specific groups. If your tool is one of them and you're focused on a specific niche or a vertical, just think about, like, what are your customers? Think about your customers for a second. What are their lives like? What could they be doing? Maybe they're looking for their next job. Hey, in our forums, we're going to add job listings. Like, come post jobs, and the community will take care of that for you. It's going to need some nurturing, like anything at first, but then that can take off. And maybe that's a reason why people come. Maybe people are coming because they're new in their role and they need more education. So I think it's just asking, what's that value going to be for them?
So let's say, since you're here, and since I have a marketing agency, right?
Free advice.
Yeah, if you have an exercise to you, let's say like Connor's gonna build uh, a community, or I say, Jason, man, what do you suggest, right? Where should I start out building a community? Like, what would you ask me? And, you know, what do you need to know? Or where would you what would you send me to do?
Yeah, I would ask why you want to build it. Then I would ask why your customers want you to build it.
For,
What's
let's say,
that?
even if it's long term.
I missed the first part.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't exactly know. Let's say it's like, well, it's just for growth, for branding, right? For brand
Okay.
growth.
Okay. Why do customers love the agency?
Mhm. So it would be a community around our customers, not potential customers, or it's independent.
Do you tell them, well, if it's growth, you want future customers, right?
Right. Yeah. 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 So
Right.
let's say, well, for that we're specialized in what we do, that they feel like our team is part of their team, and they talk constantly, and they are great to work with, and they understand B2B and the importance of driving sales more than just conversions, for example.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, that's easy because you have content to give, right? So you're going to probably put out content on various marketing principles. The user's guide to demand generation. I don't know. You think of the content first, right? And a really great person who's smarter than me, who's really great at community building, he likes to talk about the three C's: um, content, conversations, and carrots. That communities have those three elements do really well because you got to have the content to bring them in, right? You need that thing. What's that thing going to be? To me, for an agency like yours, it's probably going to be content about why they're looking for an agency in the first place, right? So they're going to come and maybe they really want to learn from others about demand generation. And you're going to start with that user's guide to demand generation. You're going to put that into the ether, or maybe it's the podcast. Then they're going to come, they're going to talk about it. You're going to get involved in those conversations, but you're also going to let them evolve. And then you're going to provide them with carrots. You're going to seed some of those conversations with, hey, here's another piece of content. This is why you need to stay. And over time, you build habits. Community is just habit building a lot of times for people. They're going to keep to come back to something. Do you know how long it takes to build a habit?
No.
No, it's about 90 days, 3 months. So that's the cycle. So it can't just be a 2 week thing. You need to nurture this thing for a while for your average person to get hooked. Once you've given them enough content and reasons to come back over those 90 days, now they're going to start to become like participatory in some way. It might just be reading. And if it's just reading, that's okay. 80% of your community are going to be lurkers. So now you need to build it enough where you get that 20% who are going to be somewhat participating. And of that, only like 3% are actually going to contribute.
Hmm.
It's hard.
Yeah, so I think it's almost like, okay, how are you adding value currently? And then, obviously you're not gonna do work for free, but like, yeah, what can you do? What carrots can you give out, that you can do without
Yeah. What can you give away?
yeah, yeah. And
Yep.
then be consistent.
Swag, giveaways, hackathons, events. There's tons of things that you could do. Because remember, community is not just the forum.
Yeah, I think obviously, I think the hardest part is start with, right? When there's from 0 to 10, it's probably harder than from 10,000 to 100,000.
Yes and no. Yes, definitely. Starting the community is hard, especially if you've never done one before. And a lot of times, even just doing them for different companies, it's hard. It's always hard when it's new because it's like launching a product, right? You never know how it's going to go. And trust me, there are times where I've launched stuff that flop. It's important to do the minimal viable, just like any product. Start small. Hey, we got this theory that this type of community is going to work. We're going to launch this program and build from this program first. And let's see how it resonates. Podcast, again, is actually a very good starter MVP type project. Try it out on different channels, see what your audience likes, talk about different things, see how it resonates. It's a low, it's not low effort, but it's not necessarily as daunting maybe as starting a new forum and growing that, right? So sometimes it's just good to start there and grow it. Yeah. Anything? Did I answer that question now?
Definitely,
I think
definitely.
I did.
I what haven't I asked Jason that you think, people would want to listen from you, or that you simply want to share about?
Let me talk about open source for a second.
Okay.
Um, Open source is unique, I think, in the community area of community, kind of falls in the community purview, where you have such passionate users who are going to maintain a product, right? Essentially, right? The source code is available. Anybody can use it and grow the product. There's something amazing and special about that, and why open source is especially an area of interest for me. Um, the Selenium project that I participate in is 21 years old this year. We celebrated the 20th anniversary last year, Sauce Labs, by creating these T-shirts, the Selenium Falcon T-shirt. And I don't know if this is a visual podcast too, but if it's just audible, if it's just auditory, then it's basically a Millennium Falcon, and we put Selenium Falcon with all the different coding languages on it for fun, and we gave it to all the project leads, and then we had the conference and we gave it to all the people who came to the Selenium conference this past year. And that went over really well. And that was like just a give back. And we weren't looking for anything from it. It doesn't even have Sauce Labs on the shirt. But they know that they got it from Sauce Labs. And so that was just another way that we were giving back to the community. But just in general, when a project like that is maintained we maintain it with all our competitors. So you have people who are maintaining from outside of the test space, test tool space, and just in the industry, and then you have all the competitors. But it was born from our founder 21 years ago, and he just said, "I'm giving it to the community." And when the VCs come, they can't have it. We're going to build our own tool here, and we're going to be part of an ecosystem. How special is that? And 21 years later, that project still exists, completely community run, and so does Sauce Labs. And I think that's why, because he created an open, fair market.
Yeah, no, I keep looking at the Maslow's hierarchy, and I think it's a little counterintuitive, right? But I do think, there's I don't think, I think there's science obviously behind this hierarchy, and I think we have to embrace or understand that the sense of belonging is the need for that is more powerful than a lot of things that we think are important or more important. Again, you know, the other part of self-respect, confidence, respect for all of that, according to this hierarchy, is less important than the sense of belonging.
Belonging.
So, you know, tapping into that, right? From well, again, you know, pick your function, pick your role in the company, but you can't ignore that reality of human nature. What I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean and we've been talking about what to do. 1 minute on what not to do. There was a big motion these past couple of years of tech companies closing source, taking back the license of an open source tool that people have been using for years. Don't do that. If you want to piss off the community, that's how you do it. You basically open source something, say it's for you, and then when your times are bad, I don't know why, you're like, you know what? Just kidding. We're going to take it back, and now you got to pay for it. Don't do that.
No, I can see how that can go really wrong really quickly.
Yes, definitely.
Anything else, Jason?
No. Thank you so much, Carlos. This was a lot of fun.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it, and hope I'm sure the audience did as well. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe for future episodes. Until next time.